Attention Big Blue Nation. Welcome to Kentucky Basketball Then and Now, a unique exploration of America's paramount collegiate hardwood program, featuring anecdotes and memories from the 1950s forward to the very latest on everything UK hoops. Kentucky Basketball Then and Now seats Wildcat fans front court and center. Here's Lexington native and SEC standout Gary Waddell and Owensboro native and Rupp Front senior student manager Mike Harreld.
Hello, and welcome again to another edition of Kentucky Basketball Then and Now. Again, I'm Gary Waddell. I've got Mike Harreld with me, and I've also got Tom Gray, who's joined us on a number of occasions. Guys, it was a tough week for UKs, to say the least, but if there's any consolation, at least we won one game this year rather than losing in the first game. I don't know for a Kentucky fan that's any consolation at all. It isn't, but sorry deal. We've got to get some credibility back and just get some credibility where we're feared or halfway feared again, because I don't think we aren't. And Tom, you brought to my attention something that I thought was quite interesting. Go ahead and tell about Calipari's record versus Gillespie's the last 3 years.
Gillespie had a better win-loss percentage in his 2 years than Calipari's had the last 3 years. Now, obviously, there's more to it, and there are other things going on, but you would think that, in my lifetime at least, that Gillespie's 2 years had to be about the low point in Kentucky basketball, maybe ever, but certainly in our lifetimes. Well, but Calipari's had a worse record the last 3 years in terms of win-loss percentage than Gillespie did.
Calipari's been 58% the last 3 years, I believe it is.
Yeah, something like that.
A Kentucky team over a decent period of time can't win 60% of the game. Adolph must, I don't know where Adolph is, but if he knows this, he's probably...
He's not too happy.
No, he's not too happy. He built it up, and it can be had again. I was watching last night. I actually looked for it and found it. The press interview or press conference that Pitino had when St. John's introduced him, I think it was Tuesday. And I'm telling you the truth in my mind, I have never seen a happier adult in my life. I mean, Rick was just smiling the whole time, and he got easy questions when he went to that, but he was as happy as he could be. He's, when you think about it, though, I thought when it first announced, I thought Pitino to St. John just kind of wasting him. He'll end up his career there. But when you think about being able to play in Madison Square Garden, they only played 3 times this year, but with a good team, new team, they could have that place packed in 2 or 3 years. He's got friends on Wall Street, and even Rick said last night or Tuesday, finding enough NIL money will not be a problem for him. He's got deep friends in Wall Street, and of course his brother-in-law was killed in the 9/11, but he was on Wall Street. And what else? He's got, of course, a fruitful recruiting ground that right there in that area. So anyway, he's got a lot going for him, and I think he knows it. He said, we'll have this program up in no time. Of course, the transfer portal helps him, but I mean, he's got to go.
I watched that after you told me about it. I listened to the whole thing. It really was fun to watch.
Yeah.
Because even though Pitino was a rival at Louisville and all that stuff, we all liked Rick Pitino because he brought UK back from the dead in 1990 or 1989.
A lot of fans forget that. A lot of people forget where we were and where he brought us very, very quickly.
Yeah. So he talked about how Pittsburgh this year came from nowhere to be a good team. Kansas State won 4 games last year.
Mm-hmm.
They had a handful of players back, and they won 23 and counting, or however many they've won, and they beat us. So it's nowadays with the transfer rules and that sort of thing, it's not that hard to flip things around. In fact, you and I talked, Gary, that this has been done at UK before, regardless of any transfer rules. In 1965, we were pretty crummy at 15 and 10. In 1966, the Rupp's runs were 27 and 2.
Right. So, one parallel kind of that I think is I've noticed is with the record that Calipari's had the last 2 or 3 years. He reminds me of the record that and I haven't checked the stats on this, but the record that Tubby Smith had, and just not really getting the job done. Tubby was problem, I think, was more recruiting.
Yep.
Whereas I think Calipari is just he's not able to somehow get these kids to play up to their potential as a team. So it's just interesting to see us struggle and see what's going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I read an article today that mentioned Tubby. I always, recruiting is one of my two hobbies. Saltwater fishing is the other one. Tubby's recruiting actually was better than he was given credit for. He signed more McDonald's All-Americans at Kentucky than Pitino did. He signed more Mr. Basketballs at Kentucky than Pitino did. And he actually signed more high school All-Americans all around, counting parade, than Pitino did.
Well, that's interesting because that's not the reputation that
No.
I know.
Of course,
his problem was he couldn't get him to do what he wanted on the floor often enough. And the really good coaches do that. So, but interesting point, though, about Tubby. UK has missed the Sweet 16 3 years in a row. That's only happened a couple times in our history. First time was 1989, 90, and 91 when we were terrible in 89 and then on probation in 90 and 91. We couldn't go. We would have gone in 91, but we couldn't. And the other time was the last 2 years of Tubby and the 2 years of Gillespie, where we went 4 years without a Sweet 16. Those are the only two times in my lifetime that UK has missed the Sweet 16, other than the last 3 years.
Well, Tom,
3 straight years in a row.
We missed it a lot before the tournament expanded. Auburn went 1 year, Mississippi State in the early 60s went. They had to get out of town in the middle of the night. But the tournament only had 24 teams in, and you had to win the SEC championship in order to go. So not a fair comparison, but yeah, yes. we've missed it a few times over the years. And you look back, people are so upset with Calipari, but if you look back, Adolph took us to one Final Four in his last 73, in his last 15 years at UK. 66 was it from 58. Yeah. So, and back then we didn't have social media. People weren't clamoring to get the old man out of there and so forth, which they would now, I'm sure. But he didn't end up all that successfully. And had some pretty good players once Joe B. Hall entered the scene with Casey Pratt and Larry Steele, who played many years in the NBA, a defensive specialist, and so forth. But Ricky's going to bring, back to Ricky, he's going to bring that program up. I wouldn't be surprised if sometime next year they're in the top 20 or maybe even 15. His coaching.
I think so. The tradition there, they have the 9th most wins of any school in NCAA basketball.
Oh, okay.
The tradition there is really amazingly good.
Yeah.
That's at St. John's?
St. John's, yeah. Mostly with Carnesecca, but Frank McGuire coached there. I mean, some really huge coaching names were on the sidelines there. So I think Pitino's just another one in that bunch.
Oh,
he's
as
big a name as any.
And as good a coach as any of them. I mean, he goes to, where he is now. And Iona wins 2 championships in 3 years? Not bad, or 4. No question he can still coach. And he says he still got it, and I don't doubt him. He probably still wants to redeem himself. And, I had forgotten, he mentioned it, that the NCAA left him with a clean bill of health. They said he had a couple minor, but, he didn't get in trouble at all with the NCAA. So he can make a case that, I didn't cheat. I hired some people that I shouldn't have hired, and they cheated. It's his line he's used for 4 years, and I guess that is true. So, guys, on a sad note, I was sorry to see that Swoop Jenkins passed away, and that was only 56 years old. The article I've read, articles didn't say what he died of, but he was pretty young, and I think we all remember the one shot that he made that had all the people wearing blue in the state jumping up and down. Was that tip in against Louisville? We won at the buzzer.
When did he play at Kentucky?
Mid-'80s. mid 1980s.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and Eddie Sutton was his coach, so that had to be mid '80s, if not lower, but somewhere in there. But
Yeah, he played 85, 86, 87, 88. So they were some good teams, not great, but good teams.
And they had Chaplin.
That 86 team was good.
Yep. He's a Georgia boy. They got him, like Kenny Walker, they got him from Georgia. So anyway, it was interesting to me. I was quite shocked because I figured no way he's coming back. And, of course, I root for our opponents to have bad recruiting classes and not be very good. But when Armando Bacot yesterday said, I'm coming back, I thought, oh, boy, maybe that'll be he doing that. He's probably every good as, if not better, as Oscar. They're right in there together. Maybe that'll give Oscar some leeway to come back and not be embarrassed that he couldn't make it in the pros, and he's right back where he's been the last 2 years. So,
I wasn't aware that Baycock plays for Kentucky this year. Is that
no? He's from North Carolina.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I didn't think he did, but
I wish he did. But no, he's had a pretty good year. But the type of player he is, and Oscar, the pros just don't want anymore. They want a big man who can go out and shoot 15, 20 feet. And Bacot certainly wasn't that, and Oscar certainly not that. So that's why their draft position is so low. And Oscar, if he comes back, I'm sure he'll get a boatload of money like supposedly he did this year. I'm sure he did this year for him to come back. But his draft status wasn't improved by anything this year. It actually exposed him, of course, in the pick and roll. He was terrible in that, as we know. And
the problem with that is, it was kind of like the Cotton Ash teams we had when I was there. He was really, really good, better than anybody else, but we didn't play as a team. And I don't think this team that we've had the last 2 years has played as well as a team as they need to. I mean, they've got to, the ball's got to stop sticking and move it, and whoever's open get the shot. And it just hadn't worked.
Well, there's some fans up there, not many, but some have said, we don't want Oscar again. Or this guy that got on the message board said, I don't want Oscar again. When the ball goes into him, forget it. It ain't coming back out. And there's a lot of truth in that. He'll hold it and squirm and then finally get a shot up. And if he misses, he gets his rebound. But I would take him back.
Yeah, I would too. But I think that's coaching. I mean, you got to teach him that, if the ball comes in there and three of them collapse on you, well, somebody's got to be open. Hit the open person.
No, that's right. And
Harry, the NCAA came out with a new ruling on transfers. I don't know when it goes into effect, but on the second transfer, it's not an automatic eligibility. You have to have graduated and be a graduate transfer now if it's the second time. So if Oscar were to transfer somewhere, he would have to have graduated this year from UK, which I think he probably did. But that's going to cut back on the transfers.
Well, he was in college 4 years, so he probably did. I imagine he's a fairly smart guy, very smart maybe. But that rule was there from the beginning and didn't get a lot of publicity because a lot of guys aren't staying that long to test that out. But coaching tries.
So tell me the rule again now. If it's your second transfer,
it's not automatically approved for immediate eligibility unless you have graduated from the school you're transferring for the second time. There was a guy in a tournament this year that had played at 4 schools. I forget who he was, but he played at South Carolina last year, and he played at another school. He's played at 4 different schools in 5 years, and he never sat out a year.
And John Swarbuck, the AD, long-term, very well-respected AD at Notre Dame, has brought this up that the transfer rule is not working as they intended it to be or to do. And I was just thinking, though, for some kids, they're furthering their education. If you come back, you get another year, and you to stay eligible, you got to study. You just can't hide in your dorm all day. You got to study if you're going to come back and play for a team. And so that's something that I don't think they're thinking about too much, but that's true. But that's been in effect for 2 years, I think, since the transfer rule came in. But we're wait and see time now with see who's going to be on the roster and who's coming back, and wait and who transfers in. And I would like to see Cal bring in 3 new shooters. He doesn't go for shooting very much, but and I wish he'd fill out his roster with the total 15 scholarships. So why leave 3 or 4 open? You know, if the kids are there, they're not playing enough, get them. They'll transfer automatically. Don't have to appease them. But seems like Duke and Carolina have a bench full of players that sometimes they'll put in there that it doesn't take very long before we run, especially if you have injuries, that we run out of good players.
Yeah, bare minimum, you got to have, I think, at least 12.
Yeah,
because you should have at least 12 scholarship players, because you're going to have 1 or 2 guys injured, not able to play, not able to practice.
Yeah.
You need 10 guys of equal ability to have a doggone scrimmage, as far as I'm concerned.
That's true too. To bring the manager. Yeah. If not, they bring a guy like Mike Harreld out there.
What's that?
I said if they don't have 10, Adolph looks over and gets a guy like Mike Harreld to come out there and be the 10th man.
Yeah.
I heard you were dunking on one scrimmage. You went up all the time and just dunked over Riley. Yeah. Is there any truth to that?
No, I don't think so. If you, I tell people, you watch these players dunk it and it looks so easy, but I said, walk out on the court and stand there under the goal and look up, and you quickly get it that you got to be a super athlete to be able to dunk the ball.
Yeah, especially dunking in warm-ups is one thing when you're all psyched, as I call it, and ready to go. Halfway through a game when you're so tired you don't think you'll get down court again, that's another thing. And I don't know how these guys do it. They just but like Rick, he said, we'll be the best conditioned team maybe in the country. I pride myself in that. And when we're not working out in the off season fundamentals, we're going to be getting in shape, running and whatever it may be. And Rick will do that. He at first the first summer he was here, of course, we know the story. Richie quit about 3-4 days into it and came over to Patino's house and say, Coach, I can't do this. I'm gonna quit. And Rick said, well, that's okay. But, if you want to live the rest of your life thinking I could have been a Kentucky Wildcat, which has been your dream all your life, and you couldn't undergo 2 or 3 weeks of pain and getting in shape, I think you'll regret that. And then the next day he showed up again. And of course he was very integral to that first team and second, both teams at UK. So
I remember the story. Some player quit on Coach Rupp in the early or mid 50s. And the Coach Rupp said, well, son, that's fine. He says, but I assure you, we'll not cancel our schedule because you left.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
There you go. Yeah, these kids are not, well, they're awesome athletes, but a lot of them are not very mature. So you have to help them and get them to think about all those kind of things, so they can hopefully make a good decision for themselves and the team.
Yeah, there's a great article that I was sent. I guess it was my brother sent it, by Cal Tucker in The Athletic. Long article. He went through all the problems UK has, can't shoot and all that, and then had some solutions to correct it. But it kind of went all the way to the bottom of what's wrong with UK. And I suggest you all, if you can. The Athletic, I think, is a paid subscription, isn't it?
It is.
It is. Okay. Well, he must be a subscriber, but it is I've read half of it. It's quite long, but very good. And the Athletic is really coming on as one of the major blogs in all sports, not just basketball, but all sports.
We got to change things at UK, not just the players. I think maybe the coaches have to sit down and look each other in the eye. Are they working out? Are they working together as a team? I'm not so sure that assistant coaches are not. They're all capable and very, very good at what they do, but you got to work together as a team. You can't be on different pages. Well,
they say they'll tell something to Cal in a game, and he'll nod his head maybe, and that's the last of it. He's not going to change, and he's pretty stubborn. Of course, people say that about John Wooden. He never used his zone. He ran the same man-to-man plays on offense, but yet he had the philosophy, if our guys are better than your guys, anything I run is going to work. And if my guys are quicker, shoot better, and of course that happened after about 1962. They were always better.
Yeah.
But he took that philosophy that my guys are going to be better. We're going to run our plays better, and so be in better shape than the other team's going to be. Mike, you have any Adolph stories? We hadn't heard one in a little bit.
Adolph was, frugal, focused, and he used to watch who got in the cabs and make sure we didn't get more of a charge than we were supposed to. I mean, he was on top of every nickel. Of course, back then things were a lot tighter than they are now, and so he just did everything that he could think of to be successful. And he one time we put him in the cab. I always got him in the first cab because you don't want Adolph waiting. He's not exactly Mr. Patience. And so the cab driver flipped the arm over, and 75 cents started or something. And Coach Up says, "Oh, hell, Mike, get them moving. They've already charged us 75 cents." And he was just very frugal and focused on the money. And of course, it was a different time then. His salary was, I think my senior year, it might have been $40,000 or so. So it was a different ball game all together. But he was a very focused individual. He was driven to be successful and constantly thinking about how he could get one more point than the other team. And his paranoia actually was a strength, because he was scared to death that somebody was going to think up something that he hadn't realized or thought of. And so he was constantly going around asking everybody when he had the chance, what do you think? What do you think we should do? Now, he didn't always listen or do what they thought, but he was constantly asking. And I think it was a good example of, the fact that he was so paranoid was a weakness, but he turned it into a strength by just using it to dig into everything and try to find a better way to do it.
He had a saying, I know it came from Adolph because his son told us this at halftime one game. His son never used profanity. Of course, Adolph, as I understand it, every other word was profane. But Herky, if you knew Herky well, Mike, never cussed.
Yes.
So we were playing either at Frankfort or Franklin County and playing poorly and so forth. And Herky came in there and said, "Guys, you can't make chicken salad out of chicken shit." And we all about fell off our benches because we had never heard if you call shit a cuss word. That completely shocked us. And I remember the parents, a lot of them were quite shocked at that too. But again, that was a different time. That was before a lot of the stuff going on that we have now out in the world. But he could use that wit and profanity to get guys to do things they didn't think they could do, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
Gary, if you know, was Herky on scholarship or was he a walk-on?
I expect he was a walk-on, wasn't he, Mike? I'm sure he was.
I don't think he was a scholarship player.
Yeah.
I looked him up in the book. He didn't make all state or all region.
Yeah.
So he certainly had the DNA and the inheritance, but I don't think he had quite the basketball skills that his dad did, because his dad was a pretty good player at Kansas.
Well, was Adolph a good player?
He wasn't a great player, but he's decent.
I thought he rarely played out there, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I'm going to give you that assignment, Tom. I didn't think Adolph was a good player.
I will hunt it up.
Oh, okay.
I will hunt it up.
I apologize.
I know. I'll hunt it up and see. I don't know.
Well,
I'll check.
I should know not to question
right.
you, so I'm probably wrong, but he learned a lot out there anyway, can say that. He had
Absolutely.
He got his MBA, or maybe Mike may have said this, but he got his MBA just in case he failed at coaching.
Yeah.
MBA at Columbia. and never used it to my knowledge. He did have a Hereford farm where I'm sure some of the fundamentals of a NBA he did use, but I think Adolph made a lot of money for the time in speeches, though. He was quite a articulate.
Yes. He was a great speaker.
Yeah, he was. Well, just his accent was enough to make you want to listen to him. Well, that's all I got. Remember the email. We're getting more people responding and asking some questions, and we like to eventually get it in real time, but it's chat wildcats plural at gmail.com. Pretty easy email address to send the questions.
Chat wildcats at gmail.com. Yep. So the other thing I remember when you're talking about Kansas was my senior year, about halfway through the season at our lunch before the game. That was the big meal. They just had a small meal for dinner, but Coach Rupp would usually get up and talk, and sometimes he wouldn't say a lot, but other times he would really get going. And this particular night or afternoon, he was really going, and I think he was trying to pump our guys up because he realized how good they could be. And so he went around the country talking about every team. And he got to Kansas, and he said, Kansas is okay, but they don't play any defense. They never did. And then he goes on to the next team, and then all of a sudden he says, oh, wait. We played defense when I was there.
That sounds about right. He didn't lack for self-confidence, I don't think. And I was around him quite a bit, even though I didn't play for him. He was around our practices and giving Herky pointers and this and that. And, interviewed him in his office, I think my junior year. We had to do an article on somebody, the most well-known person we knew in Lexington, if we could get an interview with him. And this is like 3:30 out of school. I called Coach Rupp, and he said, well, we're about to start practice, but how long will it take you to get here? And I said, maybe 10 minutes. And I went down there, and he talked to me and talked about the value of communication, which is what that class was about. And I remember him saying, we communicate down these halls all the time. Coach Bradshaw and myself and Bernie Shively were always communicating with each other, and that was very well true, I'm sure. But he was quite, and we ended up here, but, Bernie Shively, I think, was probably more of a Scrooge than was Adolph. He was tight with the money, and they said that he made Mr. Herkel, Mike.
Hukel.
Yeah. The equipment manager sew socks back. You're always getting holes in either the toes or the heel, and all the running. And he made Mr. Hukel sew them back so they could reuse them again. So, they didn't have the Nikes and all the TV money, of course, that they have now.
Yes, that's right. That was it was a different time.
Yeah. Now they have money to burn. I think they want to get rid of it every year. If they don't, it goes back to the general fund of the university itself. So they'll spend it. And that's right from Tom Jersick said that once at Louisville, that why I pay these high salaries. I don't want any money to be left at the end of the year. We'll never see it again. We'll use it to get good coaches, overpay them, and they don't produce, get somebody else in there. So, well, you all have anything else before we end up?
No, let's just hope we have a good tournament and enjoy it, even though our team's not there.
Yeah, we've had a bunch of these
hope
years.
For Alabama or Auburn to win it. I'd like an SEC team to win it, even though it's not us.
Yeah, you're right. Even though they will benefit, and we end up maybe getting beat by them down the road, because if they have great success, they already have a great success. So both of them are recruiting very well.
Auburn's one of 4 teams that has made the Sweet 16 the last 3 years.
Oh, okay. This is Auburn's 3rd year in the Sweet 16. Okay,
the Sweet 16, 3 years in a row. They're one of 4 teams.
Yep. Well, we thank everybody for listening. Again, feel free. We'd love to hear from you. And we're getting in a habit of podcasting every Thursday, so you can expect, I think by Friday, most of the time, that will be published, as they say, and you can hear it up on the World Wide Web. So,
okay,
remember that. Okay.
All right.
Take
Thanks
care,
a lot.
everybody.
Have a good day, both of you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye, Tom.
Thank you for listening to Kentucky Basketball Then and Now. Mixed by sensational audio expert Daniel Dottridge of Atlanta Podcast Recording, with web hosting by Buzzsprout. On behalf of hosts Gary Waddell and Mike Harreld, go Big Blue.